Day 11 of a 21-day fast. My ketone meter read 6. Day 17, it couldn't read the number at all. Not an error, not a fault. The meter simply wasn't built to measure what my body was doing by that point. I didn't know that was even possible. What I want to show you is what actually happens between day 11 and day 17 and why the gap between those two numbers mattered more than either one on its own. What the meter maxing out actually means, why day 11 already looked deep and day 17 went somewhere else entirely. The wind day analogy that finally made autophagy makes sense to me because by day 17 the council round had well and truly turned up. Day 11 I logged it, same as any other day. GKI 0.5, ketone 6, glucose 54, weight 13.6. I remember thinking, right, that's proper deep, somewhere near the ceiling of what a body normally does. Except I hadn't actually thought that through. I just assumed it, which isn't the same thing at all. 6 days later, day 17, same routine. Prick the finger, wait for the little screen to do its thing, except this time it didn't give me a number. It just said HI, not an error message, not the battery. The meter genuinely wasn't built to measure what was happening. Ketones were somewhere north of 8. The device's own ceiling and GKA was down around 0.3. Best I could work out from the glucose reading either side of it. The meter itself had simply given up. Between day 11 and day 17, I hadn't changed anything. Same fast, same electrolytes, same routine. Everything I'd read up to that point suggested ketosis plateaus. You get into it, the numbers settle, and from there it's about how long you sustain it, not how deep it goes. Day 11 fit that story perfectly. Day 17 didn't fit anywhere. It wasn't dramatic in the moment, no dizziness, nothing wrong. Actually felt sharper than most of the fast, but sitting there with a screen that had nothing to tell me. It wasn't really, is this dangerous? I was thinking more, bit of a shock if I'm honest. How did I even know this was even possible? June 25th, 2025, day 11, GKI was 0.5, ketone 6, glucose 54, weight was 13 stone 6. If you're keeping score, at the time it already felt like new territory. 6 months earlier, my deepest reading was somewhere between 0.8 and 0.9. It doesn't sound like much until you remember, every fraction lower gets harder to find. Mentally, day 11 was one of the sharper days of the whole 21. I'd written at the time that I felt sharper than I had in months. Not a buzz exactly, more like interference had been switched off somewhere. Numbers usually just confirm what you're already noticing, and that's what happened here. 6 days on, 1st of July, day 17, same test, same time of day. Weight was now 13.2, the lightest that I'd been in 30 years, and the ketone meter was maxed at 8. It wouldn't read any higher. GKI best calculated around at 0.3, deepest reading in the entire dataset, before or since. The meter maxed out is literally what I wrote in the notes that day, because that's exactly what happened. The screen said hi, where the numbers should have been. I sat with that for a minute, not worried, just a thought, more recalibrating. I already knew if day 11 was already deep and day 17 went somewhere the device couldn't even follow, then whenever I'd drawn the line in my head for as deep as this gets, I'd drawn it in the wrong place entirely. The bit that actually surprised me wasn't the number itself. It was the realising that the meter had a ceiling and I'd hit it by accident, not on purpose. My first reaction wasn't concern, it was curiosity. How easy was that actually to reach? Was day 17 some rare outlier? Or is it that's just where a long fast takes you eventually? If you let it run. I still don't fully know. I've not deliberately gone looking for it again since, but it sat at the back of my mind as a genuinely open question. And it sent me down a bit of a research rabbit hole afterwards. The autophagy fasting timeline, when it actually starts, how deep you need to go for it to matter. Turns out the research has more to say about that than I expected. I'm 53, I was on 6 medications and I'm now on none. I didn't read about this and decide to make videos. I did it, tracked it, got the blood test to prove it, and then made the videos. If you'd rather follow someone with receipts than someone with opinions, subscribe. New videos Monday, Wednesday and Friday. There's a researcher called Matt Matson, decades at the National Institute on Aging, studying exactly this. His read, fasting is about the strongest natural trigger going for autophagy, the process that clears out damaged proteins and knackered mitochondria at a cellular level. Nobel Prize-winning scientist behind it too, biologist called Yoshihiro Oshumi, won it for mapping out how the whole process actually works, which is basically bin day. If you want the version that made it click for me, ever lived somewhere where the bins didn't go out for a month? Bags pile up by the back door, the smell builds, flies turn up eventually. That's roughly what's happening inside your cells without autophagy running. Junk, proteins, damaged mitochondria, misfolded rubbish piling up because nothing's clearing it out. Fast for long enough, especially past the 48-hour mark, and the council lorry finally turns up, clears the lot, hoses the pavements down. You didn't even realise how bad the smell had got until it's gone and you can breathe again. Day 17, best I can tell, is what a proper thorough bin day looks like on paper. Here's the honest bit though. Nothing actually changed for me after that reading. No new protocols, no different approach to the next fast. In my case, it was mostly just nice to know. Confirmation. I was really deep into what fasting actually for. For me, which was never the weight loss, it's a great side effect. But the real reason that I do this is to clean the system out from the inside. And day 17 was about as clear proof as I've ever had of that. I can't say GKI 0.3 is a target worth chasing. I genuinely don't know if it did anything for me that 0.8 hadn't already started doing. What I can say is it answered a question and didn't know I had asked. Yes, this does go further than I had assumed. Whether it should is an entirely different question, and one I still can't answer for anyone but myself. If you're already tracking your own ketones or glucose through longer fasts and you're seeing GKI keeps dropping without the plateau that you expected, it's worth paying attention to, not panicking about. If you're on any medication that affects blood sugar, that's a GP conversation before you go looking for your own version of day 17. And if you're newer to fasting and wondering when does autophagy start when fasting, you don't need day 17 or anything close to it. From what I've read since and what my own body's told me on shorter fasts, autophagy isn't a switch that flips at some heroic depth. It ramps up gradually, starting a lot earlier than people assume. You don't need to find your meter ceiling for it to be doing something. That was never really the point. If you want to track your own numbers through something like this, there's a fasting tracker template in the description, same format I use for GKI, glucose and ketones, day by day. This is educational content only, it's not medical advice. Please speak to your GP before changing your fasting pattern, diet or medication.